anyone who watches this with like a level of intelligence above like Blue's Clues, like 4-year-old, like clap when the map finds the thing. Like, if you think about this, the information he provides you should be all the evidence you need that you shouldn't be taking him seriously. Tucker Carlson, the man, the myth, the legend, and one of the most listened to figures in all of political broadcasting. What is he up to, I wonder?
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, I hope you had a terrific 4th of July. It's a day worth celebrating, despite what you may read day in and day out. This is...
Okay, I remember. Okay. So what are we doing here, okay? What's the theme of this going to be? What should it be? Victim culture? How conservatives have a huge victim complex and every word out of their mouth is dripping with the intent of making you feel bad for them, like they're the victims of something, even though this guy is like a food trust fund baby multimillionaire funded by multi-billionaires who's the most listened to guy on television, and that they just had the presidency or something like that. What's the theme here? Hey, let's just calmly respond. You know, that's what we're going to do.
Is still a great country.
Nice.
Where else are you going to go that's better? Nowhere.
Then why did Trump say, make America great again? Doesn't that imply that it's not currently great? Seriously, what does the phrase, make America great again mean, if not to imply that America is currently not great? You should have a talk with that Trump guy. A lot of seditious anti-American rhetoric coming out of there.
America's still full of happy, decent, independent-minded people.
That's true.
The attitudes of our leaders may have changed dramatically in recent years, and they have, but the virtues of our population have not changed. That's the good news.
Virtues like what exactly, Tucker Carlson? Because actually, on pretty much every metric that I can think of, the population has gotten more progressive on trans, gay issues, on issues like favorability towards socialism, being critical of American foreign involvement, that kind of stuff. It seems like America keeps moving further to the left on those issues, so that's nice at least.
The bad news is the people in charge are working hard to make Americans hate our own country. If you made the mistake of going online this weekend, you saw them pouring out their misery on social media. Instead of enjoying hot dogs and fireworks with the kids they don't have.
I love Tucker Carlson's script writing so much because there's so much internal inconsistency. What isn't Tucker Carlson usually the one screaming that like Democrats are bringing in like brown people from Mexico to like bolster their voting population? Isn't one of the arguments that like the brown people we bring in have 1 million children, but the people complaining have no children? It's like there's as is common for fascist commentators, the enemy is exactly what they need to be at any given point in time. There are 1 million lefts, and Tucker Carlson will hammer in on any. They can just be whatever he wants. Also, have you listened to Biden talk? Biden really does not shit talk America at all. If anything, Trump did pretty often because Trump was always decrying half the population, or sorry, 2/3 of the population, saying they were un-American, you know, like America's falling apart unless you do this or that. He was the one doom and gloom. If anything, Biden's all, we got to work together, man. You know, we can do it. It's fairly simple, positive rhetoric.
They were on Twitter yelping about slavery and white supremacy and what a terrible place the United States is.
True.
It's easy to ignore people like this. You just turn off your screen and then go live your life. Unfortunately, it is much harder to shield your children from them. That's the problem. Case in point, last week, the largest teachers union in the country, the National Education Association, announced...
Wait, what was that segue? What does people complaining on Twitter have to do with this, the National Education Association? Was that a completely meaningless segue? I thought he was going to talk about anti-Americanism or whatever, but it seems like that was just like a set of digs before going into it.
That its new and first priority is making anti-American indoctrination, race-based indoctrination, mandatory in every classroom in the country.
Now, Tucker, did they say that? Tucker, did they? Now, was that the language that they used? Come on now. All right, we'll find it ourselves. Does the National Education Association even have any control over the curriculum? I don't actually know what the limits of their power is. Teachers Union vows to fight back against critical race theory critics. Okay. The largest educators union in the country has vowed to, quote, fight back against those opposed to teaching CRT in schools and reiterated its support of the controversial 1619 project. So, once again, quick reminder, critical race theory is a high-level sociological and legal theory that is not taught in elementary schools, that is not taught in middle schools. I guess maybe if you're in high school, it might get taught if you're like in like some like college prep courses, maybe. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, it's yeah, whatever. The reason why educators are fighting back against this isn't because they want to teach critical race theory to kids. It's because A, when conservatives use it, critical race theory doesn't mean anything. So really, conservatives are just pushing back against any type of like historical or sociological information that's politically unfavorable to them. So by saying we have the right to teach CRT, what they really mean is more like we have the right to point out that slavery happened, like that kind of stuff. It's fighting back against censorship. We've seen this before with other moral panics, like, for example, the satanic panic. It's not like Democrat teachers were teaching Satanism in classes to kids, but when those PTA wine mom, types were screaming out about the satanic education being taught in schools, they weren't really pushing back against Satanism. They were pushing back against things like sex education and basic history. So it's not about actually having the right to teach Satanism or critical race theory. It's more about pushing back against the broader moral panic that's taking place. Anyway, the article continues, and the only reason I don't have it on screen is because the ads are incredibly obnoxious. The National Education Association passed a resolution claiming it is reasonable and appropriate to include CRT in curriculum and pledged to create a, quote, team of staffers to help teachers, quote, fight back against anti-CRT rhetoric. To boost the effort, the NEA will work to publicize an already created in-depth study that critiques white supremacy, anti-blackness, anti-indigeneity, racism, patriarchy, capitalism, and other forms of power and oppression. Keep in mind, critical race theory didn't exactly copyright criticizing white supremacy, anti-blackness, anti-indigeneity, racism, patriarchy, capitalism, and other forms of power and oppression. The only thing here that I think I disagree with fundamentally is that I don't like the inclusion of patriarchy and capitalism on this list. If you're talking specifically about critical race theory, like, you should be specific with your rebuttal and not lump in like every left-leaning point together and turn it into some like big blob, like everything means everything. At this point, I feel like there's not really much of a point in arguing that CRT isn't taught in schools, and I'd rather just say I'd rather ask, like, if I'm debating Charlie Kirk over this, I'd just ask, like, what is being taught in schools? Don't, like, give me a term. Don't say, like, hating America. Like, literally, what is being taught in schools? Nobody in school is being taught to hate America. Like, what information? Like, is it acknowledging that slavery happened? Like, what exactly? Worthwhile stuff. But anyway, let's go back to the fearmongering. Come on.
All K through 12 schools, the union declared, must teach children that, quote, white supremacy, anti-blackness, anti-indigeneity, racism, patriarchy, cis heteropatriarchy.
Again, whoops. Yeah, I don't really like the lumping of all these terms together. Like, I know that progressivism and leftism tend to like link with each other, but the terms like these are really just kind of asking to be taken out of context by like a fear-mongering population. You know what I mean? I think it would be better if the school says pretty clearly, like, yeah, we reaffirm our insistence on educating children not to be racist and like that kind of stuff. Yeah, this does feed into the liberal elite shit. Like, yeah, these are the fancy college words they're using to indoctrinate your kids.
Ableism and anthropocentrism are embedded in every aspect of American society. So if you're a straight white American, even if you're a very small child, you are guilty.
No, that's not what they said. You need to work on your self-reporting here. By that logic, any criticism of black culture would mean you think every individual black person in this country is personally, morally guilty. Tucker Carlson, do you believe that? No, the point of teaching about these systems is actually to sort of broaden the conversation and not make it about personal culpability.
It's your fault. You're a bad person.
No.
That's what teachers will be telling your children this fall.
I have never seen evidence that this happens, by the way. I keep hearing conservative commentators, like, I see comics and videos and like memes and everything where like the stern teacher is looking down at the kid saying, "You're white and that means you're bad." Does this ever happen? Can we like walk over here to reality where I'm currently sitting? Can we chill for a second? This is completely made up, okay? Maybe it's happened like a few times. It's happened a few thousand times with like gay people. So I mean, you can fearmonger all you want over a couple instances, but this is not like a systemic issue.
The teachers union ended this statement with this line, which is so hilariously revealing that it does belong in a museum somewhere, and we hope it makes it. Quote, as the ancient African proverb says, know thyself.
Cringe. You know that was being done in a room full of white women. Oof.
The African proverb. Except it's not an African proverb. Know thyself is, of course, Greek, as any literate person knows. It was inscribed by the ancient Greeks in the Temple of Apollo at Delphi.
Hasn't every culture said some version of know thyself? I'm just saying, like, I think, doesn't this come from, I'm pretty sure, like, every culture on Earth has something that means basically this, okay?
The teachers union did not know this. So not only are these people crazed ideologues, they are stupid. Your children are being taught by some of the most ignorant people in the country.
They didn't know thyself was inscribed in Delphi, something that my editor told me right before the show started. These are some of the stupidest people. What? Pearl clutching a little bit here.
How'd that happen? God knows how it happened, but you better not complain about it, or else Joe Biden's Praetorian Guard will denounce you on television as a racist.
But the former vice president tonight also joining the rest of the GOP, pushing false right-wing talking points about the teaching of critical race theory.
Gates and the other Trumpers want critical race theory to just be a foghorn. There are no more dog whistles. This is about the woke left making the white man pay for things.
Claims of reverse racism have been the bread and butter of the modern Republican Party for decades. And now they have a new boogeyman to latch on to, critical race theory.
It's a boogeyman!
Is that the Praetorian Guard? You show people, like, disagreeing with you? I mean, everything they said was correct. Keep in mind, by the way, that critical race theory has been around since the 1970s, but only in the past, like, 12 months has this term exploded in prominence. Why? There hasn't been some big initiative to teach it. This was entirely astroturfed by the right. It wasn't like there was some big Biden push to make some federal legislation on CRT being taught in schools. They needed a new thing to fearmonger people over. They had Trump's big election lie. Trump lost. January passed. And now they need another big thing to focus on. And they talk about it nonstop. Like, look at Google Trends. Like, look. The Google Trend results for critical race theory, look, the first peak, well, funnily, right around when I talked about it with Tim Pool. Yeah, the announcement of the 1619 project was a while back, though. No, the 1619 project, that was way before. There wasn't a spike back then. Yeah, I must have done this. This is my fault. And then anyway, like, you get this big spike, like, right now, and it's dropping off, and it'll probably spike back up again or whatever. But, like, this doesn't correspond to any big change in the national curriculum. Nothing changed. They just needed a new way of continuing their or their like racist talking points now that Black Lives Matter is starting to tune down a little bit. See, the thing is, Trump's 2020 campaign strategy was very, very racially atomized. It was all about fear-mongering. Black Lives Matter is going to kill you. Black Lives Matter is going to destroy the suburbs. Black Lives Matter is going to destroy everything. So right now, the Republican Party is very, very responsive to the rhetoric of racial antagonism, but Black Lives Matter has toned down significantly. They can't prattle on about that forever, so they find something new. Now they have critical race theory to latch onto, and even though it doesn't correspond to any real-world uptick or event or anything like that, they're still hyper-fixating on it. Could the 1619 project realistically be considered critical race theory? It's certainly informed by it, yeah. It's taking a critical, and by critical I don't mean like negative, but critical I mean like in the Marxian sense, analysis of the history of slavery in America and the relationship that this country has had with the interests of black people. Sure, there are plenty of things, both historical and contemporary, that have influences in or have been influenced by critical race theory, including the writings and the speeches of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is just a fairly new term to describe an outbranch of a long and well-researched set of analytical tools. They've been used for decades and centuries in this country and in others, either in name or in implication, but there's no recent spike that justifies this conservative fearmongering. None whatsoever. It's just the new thing to worry about.
It's not real. You imagined it. You're crazy. Despite the fact the teachers union just spelled out in a document calling for more, yes, critical race theory.
But like what thing
But if you notice
specifically?
that, if you object in any way to the current obsession with race, the one subject no normal person really wants to obsess over, then you yourself are obsessed with race and you must be stopped because you're dangerous.
Well, critical race theory actually isn't about obsessing about race. If you want a world where race is no longer relevant, you need to address pre-existing racial biases. Would you say that race is irrelevant in a world with slavery? Or what about a world with Jim Crow apartheid? Probably not. You need to be able to acknowledge these social biases so you can correct them. And then you really don't have to talk about race. That's the goal of critical race theory and a bunch of other similar racially oriented theories. But it's not being obsessed with race. Like, Tucker talks about race, like, all the time on his show. He literally talks about how the Hart-Celler Act, the act that increased the number of non-white people in this country, is the greatest threat to democracy this country has ever known. He's a white nationalist. His rhetoric has explicitly been that the existence of non-white people are a threat to American culture. So it's not... The idea that other people are obsessing over race is a little bit funny. The editor, who he only had to fire because this was made public, by the way, was basically a neo-Nazi. His main editor for like 5 years. It's not like he talks about race constantly.
That's what they're saying. Not just a few of them. All of them are saying that. And as always, they're saying it in unison. So what does the average person do about this? What does it take to fight back against it?
Hello,
And of course,
average
you should
person.
be fighting back against it because everything is at stake.
Is this a porn star? This guy looks a little bit like a porn star. Who is this average person? Is this an average person? Doesn't this look like it'd be a scene from a porn a little bit with the bad lighting and he's got like, I don't know.
You can't have a multiracial democracy if people retreat into their tribes and hate each other, as this curriculum teaches them.
Non-white people are destroying this country. American culture is under threat by immigration.
So what do you do? Well, whatever you do, it's going to take some courage. Daniel Concannon learned that the hard way. Until a few weeks ago, Concannon was an administrator at Northwest Elementary School in Manchester, New Hampshire. Like so many school employees, he was then forced to participate in training about the fundamental moral flaws inherent to white people. As an American and a normal person, someone who admires Martin Luther King, he objected to this. On the other hand, he, like most people, had very little power to do anything about it.
So again, like any evidence of this inherent moral flaws of a white person? Can we like see anything? Any documentation on this? Anything at all? Even slightly? Keep in mind, by the way, that modern day criticisms of whiteness and like white racial bias were shared by Martin Luther King. He talked about it pretty openly. Oh, here we go. My name is Daniel Concannon. Attached is my resignation from the Manchester School District in response to their white privilege training. I won't be pathologized for being white. I won't be pathologized for being normal. I wonder if he thinks these mean the same thing. Neither should you. Human Wedgie McGee. Wait, this is going to be unhinged, isn't it? I hereby resign as 21 CCLC site coordinator in light of the Frankfurt School crossed out Manchester School District's endorsement of the dehumanization and hatred of white people. Okay, hold on. He didn't send this to anybody. This is something that he made exclusively to post on Twitter. As evidenced by their dissemination of the imbecilic white privilege curriculum presented by the intellectual titans at, quote, Learning for Justice, an organization founded by America's Eternal Arbiter of Truth and Morality, the SPLC, where senior fellow Mark Puddock's office is decorated with celebratory charts of the declining percentage of white people in the United States and Europe. Dude! Yeah, he didn't send this out to anyone. AKA the Temple of Equity. Yeah, this isn't even like a viable letterhead. Anti-white Manchester School. Yeah, this is just Nazi shit, basically. Despite MSD's inability to abide by its own anti-harassment policy and the complete lack of respect and procedure MSD has owed in return, I will honor the obligation to provide 2 weeks' notice. Surely, though, in the interest of the greater good of humanity, MSD will unburden itself of my unendurable whiteness by exercising its discretion to, quote, excuse an employee from such notice and relieve an employee from his or her position immediately. So this is the type of stunt that you can get away with when conservatives in your country are literally at subhuman levels of IQ. If this was actually like a long letter where he explained in detail like what he was taught and why it was wrong or why it was like discriminatory against white people, that would actually mean something. He says nothing in this entire letter, by the way. You can read the whole thing if you want. Nothing here actually says anything. It's just like highly performative screeching that he's learned from watching Tucker Carlson. This doesn't actually mean anything. Oh, this is the original human resources complaint I filed with Manchester School District after being required to complete white privilege training. By the way, being taught about white privilege doesn't mean being taught about the inherent moral failings of being white. Those aren't the same thing. 400 words or less submission to Board of School Committee as public comment re white privilege training. The white privilege training assigned to site coordinators employed in 21st century was mandatory. We have also put together a list of trainings. Each training has a deadline. Okay, so he's complaining that it's mandatory. I made multiple requests for a written response to questions posed in an official complaint regarding this white privilege training. At some time, I received a copy and pasted response to immediate inquiry. Does he anywhere here complain about what he was taught? All he's saying is that he was taught about white privilege. This is what I mean about conservatives. Like you have to push back against any moral panic they engage in because they'll lie relentlessly about the nature of these topics, okay? Being taught about white privilege is not being taught anti-white bias. That's not what that means. The only bias that conservatives recognize is Chad bias, okay? Because they're all virgins, all right? Imagine if there was imagine if the world was ruled by like square-jawed Chads, okay? And only like a few of the people were Chads. Most people are virgins, okay? And then in school, teachers are taught to, like, they're like, hey, you should keep your students educated on the fact that Chad privilege exists. And then the Chads swoop down from on high, and they're like,
why are you teaching people to hate Chads?
Like, you might as well be teaching people to not believe there's bias in favor of people who have trust funds ready for them after they graduate high school. It's super, super, super dumb. Yeah, I literally don't see anything in these letters that pertain to any specific complaint about anything they were taught besides white privilege existing.
He wasn't a rich person. He was making about 30 grand a
Wait,
year.
is this that guy? Is this that guy?
He needed the job. But in the end, his conscience would not allow him to participate in something this poisonous.
For reasons not only you, but apparently he also can't describe.
And if you get a minute, look up his resignation letter. It's online. He ends it this way, quote, I wish the Trotsky disciples at Manchester School District nothing but failure in their ongoing quest for civilizational degradation.
Do you know what Trotsky means? Do you have any idea? It's just a scary word, so you use the scary word.
I leave you with the only verbal response befitting an attempt at anti-white indoctrination. F you. Well, it wasn't so long ago that Daniel Concannon and men and women like him would have been considered heroes.
Keep in mind, that last bit right there was in the letter that he definitely didn't mail because he was just something that he wanted to post on Twitter. But now he's gotten like a signal boost from Tucker Carlson, so that's nice.
He's a man of conscience. He was willing to sacrifice his own job to do the right thing. But he's not considered a hero anymore. In fact, he's been effectively disappeared. You may not have heard his name until tonight.
What do you mean disappeared? What? Disappeared? This resignation letter came out 9 days ago. Who's disappearing him? What? Again, the persecution complex from people like Tucker Carlson is insane, you know? Like, and here is a TikTok from a brave young student who claims they stood up during a lesson of critical race theory in class and epically owned the professor. You may not have heard of this person. They've tried to silence them. And it's like a viral TikTok or something. It's so it's so fucking performative, dude. None of these people believe any of the shit they say. It's just a big game and real people get hurt.
There aren't a lot of Daniel Concannons out there, and that's the point. The few that arise are muted so that no one will follow them.
Muted by who? This is, by the way, didn't Tucker Carlson just say that what was it, the NSA is recording his calls or something like that? He's literally the largest conservative out there in terms of like punditry, and he's broadcasting this, and he's like, oh, they've been silent. Who's silenced? Remember when this guy had like crazy info on, was it Hunter Biden or was it Donald Trump secretly winning the election? But it was in a briefcase, and then the briefcase got lost. Does anyone remember that? It was Hunter Biden. Was it the election? It was Hunter Biden, yeah. And he was like, we have a critical briefcase. And then he's like, the briefcase was lost. Or something like that. I don't remember. Dude, it's so funny.
He has no interest in amplifying their stories. Or the story of this guy. This man is a father who showed up at a school board meeting recently in Illinois and decided to tell a few...
Is this going to be Candace Owens' brother?
...obvious truths. Here's what he said.
Yep! This is Candace Owens' brother. This guy showed up and delivered a totally unscripted, I'm just a concerned parent. This is Candace Owens' brother. Also, I think he talks about him having 2 degrees in the speech, and I don't think anyone's been able to find that he actually has those degrees.
Deliberately teach kids this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get...
First of all, that's not an argument. Second of all, wait, he does have those, though? I heard from somebody that he said that he did. Does he have 2 medical degrees? By the way, that's not an argument. How can racism exist when I have 2 medical degrees? There were people with PhDs back before the Civil Rights Act. I don't know. It doesn't really matter whether or not he has a medical degree, right?
First of all, time up. We've only got 5 minutes now.
Totally impromptu parent speech, by the way. Where by the way, just a concerned parent, he's got his notes, he's got the video camera perfectly centered on him. He's the brother of one of the largest conservative commentators in the country. Yeah, just casually coming on to express his will as a parent.
In the house, worked my way through college, sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you?
That's not the argument. Can somebody explain to me how I'm not supposed to be bigoted against conservatives when they're still trotting out the argument, how can racism exist when a black guy did well? This is like a centuries-old argument. And, like, they don't actually believe it either. Because if you, like, push back in it for 3 seconds, they give it up every time. You've noticed that in my debates, right? They'll be like, yeah, dude, like, how can racism be a thing? Like, Obama was president. And I was like, you do know that's not how statistics works, right? And they'll be like, yeah, okay. They don't actually believe this, do they? They don't believe it.
Serious? I do this stuff on a daily basis. I'm in the hood. I'm in the communities. I'm out there with folks in their face. I've been doing this stuff since I was 18 years old, talking to black folks. And you know what? None of them are buying this nonsense. And ain't not one white person ever gonna keep any of them from getting there. So the CRT stuff, BS.
Damn, dude, yeah. So again, white privilege isn't white people keeping black people from doing things. And second of all, also, yeah, dude, white people have never held black people back.
Must be one of those alt-right QAnon people CNN's always warning you about.
It's literally, by the way, not disclosing that it's Candace Owens' brother. How can conservatives, how can you look at this? How can you possibly look at this and think these people have any integrity? You don't think that's information that he might want to provide? Like, is there any reason why he's hiding the fact that this is Candace Owens' brother? Any reason at all? Probably because they want to sell to you the image of spontaneity and authenticity.
It's BS, he said, and you heard the applause in the background. The overwhelming majority of Americans, and pollsters have found this pretty clearly, think this is insane. They think you should judge people by what they do, not on the basis of their skin color. They believe in Martin Luther King. So it is BS. In fact, it's more than that. It's civilization-ending poison. But it's...
Jesus Christ. Wait, is this not Candace Owens' brother? A video of a supposed concerned parent ranting against critical race theory during an Illinois school board meeting recently went viral on Twitter. Right-wing news outlet Daily Caller tweeted out the video along with the caption, "An Illinois parent rips into critical race theory at a school board meeting." There's the guy right there. And then, okay, this is what I got sent. Apparently he took a selfie with Candace Owens at one point. Well, since someone had to rat me out, yes, Candace Owens is my sister and I'm her crazy big brother. Okay, so they meant like they're really good friends or something. Okay. I don't think this meaningfully changes anything. So not literally sister, okay. Figuratively sister, okay. Doesn't meaningfully change the fact that this is dishonest as hell. In the clip, the parent identified as Ty Smith says critical race theory will teach kids how to hate each other. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm pressed? And we've seen that clip. Went viral with more than 3 million views and then got approval from right-wing social media users, including Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, okay, so this was the rumor circulated because of the Instagram posts. It was taken in 2020 on October 12th. Modern Renaissance Man, conservative talk radio show. Okay, whatever. Doesn't actually mean that much. Modern Renaissance Man. Did he get that uploaded, the concerned parent in Illinois thing? Illinois father destroys critical race theory backed up by Charlie Kirk at the Dunlin Report. Okay, he did. Too bad that didn't benefit his channel very much. What are these view counts? Jesus. It's on his Insta? Yeah, okay, it's on his Insta. Well, it doesn't fundamentally change the fact that he's, like, not just a random parent, but he's, like, a conservative Illinois father destroys CRT exposed as Candace Owens' brother. And yeah, okay. So on and so forth. How does he have 170,000 subs? It could be legacy subs. Hold on. Most popular. Okay, he did a bunch of music reacts that got a bunch of views a while ago. Why would it mean anything to you if it destroyed your entire argument? Because it doesn't destroy the argument. The point is that this guy wasn't just a random parent, but instead a conservative commentator who specifically planned his presence there as a social media stunt, which he did. Whether he's Candace Owens' brother or this guy, that fact remains the same. The actual relation was only the means by which he was connected to conservative grifting.
Everywhere. How widespread is it? Well, we can't really be sure until we finally get cameras in the classroom as we put them on the chests of police officers.
I saw this. This is insane. Tucker Carlson literally wants cameras installed in classrooms so parents can check up to make sure they're not being taught critical race theory.
Until we finally get a civilian review board in every town in America
Civilian
to oversee
review
the people teaching your children, forming their minds. And let's hope we get both of those very soon. But until we do, we can't know exactly how widespread this is.
So we don't know how widespread this is. We have no data, but we need the greatest overreach in intrusion and privacy in American history. We need like a new Patriot Act. We don't know if this is a problem or not, but we basically need to spend hundreds of millions, billions, and form community councils to police the existence of this moral panic that we invented in the past 9 months. Yeah, okay. But cops don't need body cams, by the way.
There are indications. We know that these ideas, this poison, has made it all the way to expensive private schools in central Ohio. Columbus Academy.
Wait, what does that mean all the way? Wouldn't private schools have a greater range of potential topics they could introduce into the curriculum? It's a private school. They can do what they want. I mean, they have to adhere to curriculum guidelines, but apart from that, they can do whatever they want. By the way, the all the way to means it's infected the rich whites. By the way, that's what he means.
Among them, Columbus Academy, one of the most prestigious schools in the state of Ohio, tuition more than 30 grand a year per student. In the past year, Columbus Academy, which has a long history of academic excellence, has become race obsessed. School administrators aren't working to help unwed teenage mothers or improve black neighborhoods. That might actually make the country better. If you want to talk about race, maybe you could improve someone's life, but they're not.
They're educators. Their job is to teach people. Maybe if these teachers wanted to make the world a better place, they could go rescue children from burning buildings. They're teachers. It's a school. It's their job.
They're doing what all guilty white liberals do. They've adopted the same familiar racist curriculum. Some people are better than other people based on the color of their skin. They've been teaching that. And a lot of parents went along with it. They didn't say a word. They didn't know what was happening, or they were too afraid to speak up. But two mothers decided they weren't going to have it, so they objected.
So we don't have, so no evidence being provided of anything that they're doing. So again, nothing. Wait, so we don't know the extent of this problem. Here's the evidence in favor of its existence. I have one satirical resignation letter from a weirdo on Twitter, and I have two, yeah, I'm going to say it with the hard N, Karens, that are about to complain. We're not going to see any evidence of anything actually taking place. No, like nothing like that. We're just going to see like this, okay? This is what's called manufacturing consent, by the way. If you want to, if all it takes is like a couple of testimonies from a few people to construct a narrative, you can construct a narrative around literally anything. Literally anything, you know? If I worked hard enough, I could probably travel these great United States. I mean, I have a platform. I could just look for people who believe this. And I could probably find people who believe that there is a clown epidemic in high schools, that funds are being diverted away from the common good at like public high schools, and money is being spent to hire clowns, which will then throw pies at people's faces, leave discarded banana peels at key intersections and sometimes on top of staircases to lead to precipitous fall, and that this is a very serious social problem. I can find a couple of Twitter posts about it. I can find a couple of videos of people freaking out about it. And if I sell it hard enough, maybe the idiots watching me will believe there is actually some kind of genuine serious problem afflicting the country. But by Tucker Carlson's own admission, we don't know how far this has reached. He doesn't know anything. There's no data on this. It's just a moral panic. We dealt with this before with the satanic panic, okay? We always deal with it, and we deal it with from the same group of people every time.
Their names are Andrea Gross and Amy Gonzalez. And in January, they decided, we're going to fight this. We love the school, and we're going to do something about it. So they founded a group called the Pro-Columbus Academy Coalition, and it was pro-Columbus Academy. They wanted to make the school better.
Okay.
Their mission was to stop the bigotry and
What
return
bigotry?
Columbus Academy to its academic mission.
You haven't...
Teaching children to read, teaching them history.
Hey, here's a question. If there was a lot of real evidence of terrible stuff being done in these schools, why don't they just show it? Like, the funny thing is, I bet they could. Like, I can guarantee you that all it would take is 5 minutes for me to find, like, weird anti-racist shit being taught to elementary schoolers that I would disagree with. Not because I have a problem with the sentiment, but usually because the way it's being delivered is really haughty and high-horsey, you know? Like, why doesn't he just show that? Like, why does it always have to be this hyper-performative bullshit?
Showing them how to do math. But the people who run Columbus Academy didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to have the conversation. They didn't want to listen. They wanted Gross and Gonzalez to shut up and go away.
Where is... You're just telling a story. Where is any of the evidence here?
About her children, it's hard to make her shut up. So last month, instead of punishing them, the school decided to punish their children. Columbus Academy kicked their 3 daughters out of school.
Okay, wait, hold on. I need more information of this because he's been giving background narrative for like 2 minutes now. 4 Ohio high school students expelled because their parents campaigned against critical race theory. This is from the Post-Millennial. Nice. Okay, do we have an actual site? Well, we can read what's here. The campaign led by their mothers against the teaching of critical race theory. The academy informed the parents that their children would not be welcome back in the school for the next school year. The letter sent to the 2 parents claimed they had breached the contract with the school by failing to promote a positive and constructive working relationship. Oh, okay. So maybe the moms acted so psycho that the school didn't want to deal with them anymore. The letter continued by stating the 2 mothers, quote, pursued a course of action that has been anything but civil, respectful, and faithful to the facts. Okay. Well, what's the letter? Some of the curriculum and school teaching the parents took issue with pictured above. And the highlighted section is, what we're dealing with here is 110 years of white supremacy. This is what I mean, by the way. Yeah, white fragility, Robin DiAngelo, I know. But this is what we're dealing with, by the way. This is what they're calling critical race theory. White supremacy has existed and continues to exist. That's what they call, like, critical race theory. It means absolutely nothing to them. Absolutely nothing. Any acknowledgement of the existence of racism whatsoever is critical race theory to them. However, any parent who waged a public campaign of false and misleading statements and inflammatory attacks harmful to the employees, the reputation, or financial stability of Columbus Academy would be in clear violation of the enrollment agreement and would be denied re-enrollment from the following year. So here's what I'm going to guess took place, okay? Here's what I'm going to guess actually took place, all right? These 2 crazy bitches heard that their children were being taught that racism exists, so they freaked out and led a massive social media campaign against the school. They probably harassed individual teachers. They would probably name them. They may have done like harass them on like the sidewalk, or may have just done it over social media. They probably tried to dredge up as many conservative contacts as they could to attack the school. And all of this was in violation of the contract that they signed to not, like, you know, attack the school, which is, again, a private school, not a public one. So they were not allowed further enrollment. Alleging the mothers breached part of their contract by leading a public campaign against the school's purported attempt to indoctrinate students with left-wing ideas. Fox News obtained copies of the school's letters notifying Gross and Gonzalez of the decision. You've engaged in a campaign against Columbus Academy through a sustained and increasingly inflammatory series of false and misleading attacks on the school and its leadership. Your attacks caused pain and even fear for physical safety among students, families, faculty, and staff, said CA head of school Melissa Soderberg and Board of Trustees President Jonathan Cass. You've taken steps to explore how you, and with your encouragement, others could withhold tuition payments, pay them escrow until the demands are met. Yeah, okay, so this is very standard conservative stuff. Act like a fucking lunatic and try to tear down everyone around you, and then when you face any consequences for it, make it out to be some kind of conspiracy against you and your rights. Very common stuff. I like how all of this is just being narrated by Tucker, like no associated, like no details, nothing about the information being taught.
Expelled them for what their mothers did. So challenge the regime and we'll hurt your children. The Soviets...
It's not... Okay. It's not the regime. It's a private school, and they violated a contract by spurring a harassment campaign against their school and their employees.
Did it. Columbus Academy did it too.
Just like the Soviet
school's
Union.
headmistress, a confirmed mediocrity called Melissa Soderberg, sent a letter to every parent in the school explaining why she was punishing the children for the sins of the parents.
Nope. Actually, they explained that it was a breach of contract and that in the contract that was signed, enrollment may not be renewed following this. You know who the real victims of this are? Those bitches' kids. Those two women violated contract with their private school and denied their kids a good education because they wanted to be social media darlings for conservatives.
But she didn't write it alone. That letter was signed by the head of the board, someone you'd think might know better, a local developer called Jonathan Cass, someone with a job. But he signed it.
What? Wait, what? Wait, what? You'd think he would have known better. He had a job. Didn't they both have jobs?
To Soderbergh and Cass, by daring to complain about racism in the Columbus Academy curriculum, which is real, these two mothers had caused, quote, pain and even fear for physical safety among students, families, faculties, and staff. In other words, if you dare to question us, we won't disagree with you. We'll attack you, we'll hurt your children, and we'll accuse you of assault.
That wasn't an accusation of assault. Tucker, come on. That's not what assault means. Can you imagine having this much of a victim complex? Keep in mind, this is a lose-lose for the private school because there is nothing they could have done that would have won them this. Like, if they give in and stop teaching their children factually correct information about white supremacy, then that's their loss. These women, the two moms, could have done or said absolutely anything, and Tucker Carlson would have left out the details of their harassment to frame them as being in the victimhood.
It's a physical crime. You're making us afraid.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here.
Yeah, anyway, so yeah, once again, if you're a conservative and you watch Tucker Carlson, I'm sorry, you're kind of subhuman. I try my best sometimes to pretend that I think like conservatives have any valid points, but no, not really. You super duper are. It's not just, again, it's not just being wrong, because I'm wrong about things sometimes. It's that anyone who watches this with like a level of intelligence above like Blue's Clues, like 4-year-old, like clap when the map finds the thing. Like if you think about this, the information he provides you should be all the evidence you need that you shouldn't be taking him seriously. He is so incredibly and flagrantly dishonest with all of the information that he presents. The information he presents is very one-sided. He will present a case and then lie about what he just said. When did that school board say the moms assaulted them? When was that claim made? It wasn't. But he'll say that they made it anyway, because why not? It's, yeah, whatever. You watch Tucker Carlson, you'll believe anything. Anyway, really, really phenomenal stuff with these guys. Absolutely fantastic stuff, as always. One of the most popular political figures in America.